My son's wife shared a TikTok that said, "My mother-in-law is useless now. It's her job to handle the house and kids." She giggled as commenters praised her for being so real. I just gave a little smile and closed the app. I knew then I had to teach her a lesson she would never forget. When she returned home, she was in for the shock of her life. I never imagined it would come to this. That at 68 years old, with hands weathered from 4 decades of hard labor, I'd be sitting in the living room of the house I built, watching thousands of strangers make a mockery of me. It was a Thursday afternoon. I can still recall the cinnamon aroma of my freshly made coffee and the chirping of birds on the deck. I had just finished my usual routine of cleaning the entire house and had settled into my armchair for a brief rest. It was the one I purchased 20 years ago, still retaining its deep navy hue because I care for it, like it's priceless. I reached for my phone. I'm not one of those seniors baffled by technology. I taught myself by watching online tutorials and asking my neighbor Gladys. I opened TikTok because my granddaughter Kyla showed me how to find recipes and cat videos. Simple joys that brought a smile to my face. But on this day, the algorithm presented me with something else entirely. I saw the face of Jasmine, my daughter-in-law, beaming at the camera with a smile I had once believed was sincere. She was in a pink top I had bought for her birthday. The video opened with a popular song playing as she spoke into the lens. "Do you all want to know the greatest part of having a mother-in-law?" she chirped, wiggling her eyebrows like she was delivering the punchline of the century. My heart hadn't caught on yet. "I don't have to lift a finger around here," she went on, and a knot formed in my stomach. The camera turned. It revealed my kitchen, the very kitchen where moments before I'd been scrubbing the breakfast dishes they had left. I was visible from behind in my yellow floral apron, the one I'd worn for years because it reminded me of when my husband, Richard, was still with me. My mother-in-law. She has nothing better to do with her life, Jasmine said with a taunting tone. So it's her duty to manage the house and the kids. I mean, what else is she supposed to do? Just sit and watch TV all day long? She let out a laugh, the same one I'd heard at family get-togethers and on Sunday afternoons. But this time, it was different. It was cruel. The comments flooded my screen. Thousands of them. LOL? You're so right. That's what grandmas are for. You go, girl. Let the old ones do the work. Yep, gotta earn their keep. I felt something shatter inside of me. It wasn't a loud, dramatic crack. It was something quieter and worse. It was like when a cherished antique teacup falls, and the sound is so faint you barely notice. But when you look down, you see it's in a million fragments. My hands shook as I held the phone. 63,000 likes, 800 comments, and thousands of shares. I had become the afternoon's joke for countless people who didn't know me, my name, what I had accomplished, what I had sacrificed, or what I had given. I closed the app, but the image was seared into my brain, into my very soul. I pushed myself up from the armchair. My legs were steady, but I felt as if I were walking on clouds. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water, from the set I bought when I married almost 50 years ago. I drank it slowly, trying to regulate my breathing. I could hear laughter coming from the bedroom Jasmine shared with my son, Ethan. She was showing him the video. I heard her voice. "Look, honey, it's already got over 50,000 likes. People get it, see?" And then came the worst part, the voice of my son, my Ethan. The boy I held in my arms after his father passed, when everyone said I couldn't raise him on my own. The young man I rode 2 city buses with every morning to get to school, because we couldn't afford a car. The man I embraced on his wedding day, telling him he would always have a place with me. Oh, Jazz, you're not wrong. Besides, Mom is old now. What else would she do? They laughed together. In that moment, I didn't weep. I didn't shout. I didn't smash a thing. I just smiled. A tiny, still smile that emerged from a deep place within me I didn't know existed. Because in that instant, hearing their laughter, seeing the notifications continue to flash on the phone still in my hand, I realized something that would alter everything. I had been too kind, too silent, too accommodating. I had mistaken love for being invisible. And that was about to change. I opened the video one more time and watched every second, every mocking gesture, every comment, branding me a freeloader or a burden. And as I watched, my mind started to churn. Because Jasmine had just made the biggest blunder of her life. She had no idea who she had provoked. She didn't realize that this house she moved through so casually, with such entitlement, had an owner. And that owner wasn't a frail or defeated woman. It was me, Ruthie Mae Jakes. And I was about to give everyone a reminder of who built these very walls. I turned off the phone, removed my apron, poured another coffee, and began to plot. Because if 68 years on this earth had taught me anything, it's that you don't win battles by yelling. You win them by thinking, by waiting, and by striking at the perfect moment. And my moment was just on the horizon. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in my bedroom, the most compact in the house, the one looking out onto the alley instead of the garden, my eyes fixed on the ceiling. I could hear Ethan and Jasmine snoring from the master suite, the room that was my own for 3 decades, the space I had surrendered for their comfort. I woke at 4 a.m. as always. My body had an internal alarm that needed no setting. I put on my robe, clean but worn thin at the elbows, and walked out to the backyard. The air was crisp. It smelled of damp soil, though there had been no rain. I sat on the concrete bench beside the lemon tree, the one I'd planted when Ethan was 5, which now produced lemons as large as my fist. And there, in the quiet darkness, broken only by the yellow glow of the street lamp, I let the memories flood in. I needed them. I needed my own history to lend me the strength I felt slipping away. I purchased this house in 1988. Let me say that again so it's perfectly clear. I purchased it with my own money, with my own 2 hands. I was 28 and had just buried Richard. Stomach cancer. 4 months from his diagnosis until he took his final breath, gripping my hand like he was trying to take a part of me along with him. I was alone with Ethan, a 3-year-old who still cried for his daddy every night, with no savings and no family to lean on. My parents were gone, and Richard's relatives vanished when they saw there was no inheritance. People said, "Sell the house, Ruthie Mae. Move back home. Find a man to support you." I'd just smile at them and think, I'd rather starve. I found a job at the textile factory in the old industrial park, the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift. I sewed pockets onto jeans, 500 of them a day. My fingers were raw for the first few weeks, until calluses formed so thick I couldn't feel the needle pricks. But the pay wasn't enough, so I took on a second job. From 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., I cleaned offices in a downtown skyscraper. I brought Ethan with me. I'd set him up in a chair with his coloring books while I scrubbed floors, emptied wastebaskets, and wiped down the desks where other people made their fortunes. I slept for 4 hours, sometimes 3. On weekends, I sold homemade sweet potato pies and fried chicken dinners that I cooked late on Friday nights. I would carry them in a large cooler to the church fair. Ethan would help me yell, "Hot dinners! Get your pie and chicken!" Every dollar I made went into a metal box I kept hidden under my mattress. No splurges, no new outfits, no nights out. Just work. Just saving. Just the dream of a place of our own where my son could grow up secure. It took 5 years. 5 years of rising before dawn and going to sleep after the sun had come up again. 5 years of watching my son grow up mostly without me. Raised between factory floors and empty offices, eating cold meals and napping on spare chairs. But in 1993, when Ethan was 8, I signed the papers for this house. It was modest then. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, with a kitchen and living room combined in one space. The walls were cracked. The roof leaked during heavy rains. The floor tiles were broken. There was no yard, only a patch of dirt and overgrown weeds. But it was all mine. I wept the day I got the keys. I cried so much that Ethan got frightened and hugged me, saying, "Don't cry, Mommy. We're going to be fine now." And I started to fix it up. I laid the bathroom tiles myself. I checked out tutorial videos at the public library and asked for tips from construction workers in the area. I bought the cheapest materials and installed them with my own 2 hands. I got cuts. I got burns from the cement. My back was sore for weeks, but it was gorgeous. I painted the walls a pale yellow to let the light flood in. I planted the lemon tree. I placed pots of red geraniums near the entrance. I built the concrete bench where I was now sitting. By the time Ethan was 15, we had a proper yard. We threw his birthday party right here. We had 30 people over. There was music, barbecue, and a German chocolate cake made from my grandmother's recipe. My son hugged me that night and whispered, "Thanks for giving us this home, Mom. One day, I'm going to care for you, just like you've cared for me." I held those words close to my heart. When Ethan graduated from high school, I expanded the house. I took on a loan and added 2 more bedrooms. One for him, one for myself. I put a hallway between them to give him some privacy. I gave him his own closet, his own sanctuary. For when you bring a wife home, I teased. He chuckled. "Mom, you'll always be the queen of this castle." I paid off that loan in 3 years, working double shifts again without a word of complaint, because it was for my son, for our shared future. Ethan went to City College for a business degree. I covered his textbooks, his bus pass, his meals. I took on weekend jobs cleaning houses so he could focus on his studies without needing to work. He graduated with high honors. We cried together at his commencement. He handed me a bouquet of yellow flowers, my favorite, and told his classmates, "This is my mom. She is the reason I am standing here today." I was the proudest woman on earth. 2 years after that, he met Jasmine. She was a receptionist at the company where Ethan landed his first job. She was lovely, charming, and articulate. I liked her right away. When Ethan announced they were getting married, I hugged her and said, "Welcome to our family, my dear. This home is your home, too." I meant it with all my heart. We held the wedding right here in the backyard. We couldn't afford a large venue, but we made it beautiful with string lights in the trees, tables draped in white cloths I sewed, and food we prepared with help from our neighbors. Jasmine wept with joy. She embraced me and said, "Thank you, mother-in-law. Ethan is so fortunate to have a mom like you." When they returned from their honeymoon, a 3-day trip to a South Carolina resort that I paid for, I suggested they stay in the house while they saved for a place of their own. "It's just for a little while," Ethan promised. "Just until we have enough for a down payment." "Take all the time in the world," I told him. And I gave them the master bedroom, my bedroom, the one with the large closet, the window facing the yard, the private bathroom I had poured my sweat into building. "You two are young. You need your own space," I explained as I moved my belongings into the smaller room. Ethan tried to object. Jasmine said, "Oh, mother-in-law, you shouldn't." But I was insistent because that is simply my nature. I give, I concede. I make myself smaller so that others can expand. Kyla was born, and then Samuel. I stepped into the role of full-time grandmother. I looked after the children while Jasmine was at work. I bathed them, fed them, and assisted with their homework. I was the one who got up in the middle of the night when they cried so their parents could rest. "I'm a light sleeper anyway," I'd say. I cleaned the home, cooked for the family, did their laundry, pressed Ethan's shirts, and bought the groceries with my Social Security money because, as I said, I don't eat as much anyway. I never once asked for anything. I never voiced a complaint because I believed that was what love was. But as I sat on that bench at 5 a.m. the day after that horrible video, I had a realization that tore me apart. I had become invisible within my own house, not because I was old or useless, but because I had given so much of myself that I ceased to exist as an individual. I had become a service, a utility, the woman who cleans, cooks, and babysits. And the worst part of it all was that I had let it happen. The sun started to rise. The birds in the lemon tree began to sing. I heard Ethan's bedroom door open and close, followed by footsteps heading to the bathroom. I wiped away tears I hadn't even noticed were falling. I placed my hand on the wall of my house. It was cool, solid, and mine. Every single brick held my sweat. Every tile held my blood. and every corner held my history. And nobody, absolutely nobody, was going to take that from me. Especially not someone who had never had to build a single thing with her own 2 hands. I rose from the bench, straightened my shoulders, and took a deep breath. The battle had begun, but first I needed to understand exactly what I was up against. I waited until breakfast. I made smothered pork chops and grits, Ethan's childhood favorite, with shredded chicken, cream, and fresh cheese. I set the table with care. Clean plates, folded napkins, freshly squeezed orange juice in the glass pitcher I inherited from my mother. Jasmine came down first. She was in silk pajamas that cost more than $75. I knew because I had seen the receipt in her purse. Her hair was in a flawless ponytail. She looked well-rested, glowing. "Good morning, mother-in-law," she said in that sing-song tone that now sounded completely false. I didn't reply immediately. I just watched her as I poured coffee into her favorite mug, the one with the floral pattern she bought for herself that no one else was allowed to touch. "Jasmine," I finally said, my voice steady. "We need to talk." She glanced up from her phone, which she hadn't even bothered to put down to greet me. "Yeah, what is it?" Her tone was dismissive, uninterested. "I saw your video." The silence that followed was so thick, I felt the mood in the kitchen shift. Jasmine blinked a few times, then forced a nervous laugh. "Oh, mother-in-law, what video are you talking about?" "The one on TikTok, where you claim it's my duty to look after the house and your kids because I have nothing else to do with my life." Her face flushed, but what I saw in her eyes wasn't shame. It was irritation that I had found out. "Oh, you're overreacting. It was just for fun." She stood to get more coffee, turning her back on me. People knew it was a joke. 63,000 people laughing at my expense. That doesn't feel like a joke, Jasmine. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Ethan was coming down, wearing the pajamas I had given him for Christmas. His hair a mess. He looked exhausted. He works hard, I know. But the moment he saw my face, he sensed something was wrong. "What's going on?" he asked, his gaze shifting between us. Jasmine beat me to it. She went to him with that feigned victim look I now recognized all too well. "Your mom is upset about a video I posted, but honey, it was just a joke. Everyone on TikTok knows it's all for entertainment. It's not supposed to be taken seriously." Ethan looked at me, and in his gaze, I saw something that wounded me more than 1,000 videos. Doubt. He doubted me. "Mom, what video is she talking about?" I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking a little, but I kept them steady. I opened TikTok and found Jasmine's profile. The video was still there, now with 92,000 likes. I showed it to him. Ethan watched the entire clip. I saw his eyes track the images, read the comments, and his expression shift from curiosity to unease. But then he spoke, and his words were worse than any insult. "Mom, I think you're taking this too personally." I felt as if a bucket of ice had been poured over me. "Too personally?" I echoed, my voice barely a whisper. "It's just that," Ethan said, scratching the back of his neck, looking uncomfortable. "It's just a video. Jasmine has a big following. She creates that type of content. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal." My voice rose beyond my control. "She recorded me without my consent. She put me on display for thousands of people. She said it was my duty to wait on you two. And it's not personal?" Jasmine crossed her arms. She had dropped the pretense of being sorry. "Mother-in-law, you told me yourself 2 weeks ago that you loved taking care of the kids, that it was the highlight of your life. I was only repeating what you said." It was true. I had said that, but not in the way she framed it, not with that mocking tone, not as a justification to use me. "Besides," Jasmine continued, her confidence growing now that she saw Ethan wasn't defending me, "we all live here. It's only fair that everyone helps out. We cover the utilities and the food. You help with the house. We all do our part." Something in my chest grew so tight I thought I might faint. "You pay the utilities?" I asked slowly. "The food?" "Well, yeah." Ethan said as if it were self-evident. The electricity, the gas, the water, the groceries. It all comes from my salary. I sank into a chair because my legs could no longer support me. Ethan, I said, looking him directly in the eyes. Do you have any idea whose name is on the deed to this house? He frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Answer me. I don't know. Dad's, I guess, or both of yours. Jasmine was now looking at me with curiosity, too. I felt something break inside me. Not with sadness, but with pure outrage. This house is in my name alone. I bought it in 1993 with my own money. Every single dollar for the down payment and every monthly mortgage payment for 15 years came from my own hands. Your father never saw it completed because he died before I could buy it. I built the bathroom with my own hands. I laid these very floor tiles. I planted the yard where your children now play. And I have never, not once, asked you for a single dollar of rent. The silence was deafening. The utilities you so proudly pay for are for my house. The food you purchase is cooked on my stove, kept in my fridge, and served on my table. You sleep in my bedroom. You shower in my bathroom. You breathe the air in my living room. I watched Jasmine's jaw tighten, and in the 5 years you two have lived here, I have never asked for anything but a little respect. Mom, calm down, Ethan said, and that phrase was the last straw. Calm down? After your wife paraded me in front of thousands of people? After they called me a freeloader, a useless old woman, a family burden? After you two laughed at me? Ethan went pale. You heard us. I heard you two laughing about the video yesterday afternoon. You said, "Oh, Jazz, you're not wrong. Besides, Mom is old now. What else would she do?" My son looked at the floor. He couldn't meet my gaze, but Jasmine could. And what I saw in her eyes sent a chill down my spine. There was no remorse. There was only frustration. Well, if it bothers you that much, she said, her words like daggers, I can just delete the video. Happy now. It's not about the video, Jasmine. It's about respect. It's about this being my house, and the fact that I deserve to be treated with dignity here. Nobody disrespected you, she shouted, her voice rising. Now you're the one creating a huge drama over something everyone does online. You should be happy I even put you in my content. Other influencers make people pay to be in their videos. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked to my son, hoping he would intervene, defend me, set a boundary with his wife. But Ethan just said, his voice tired, Mom, I think you're both overreacting. Jasmine, just take down the video. Mom, please forgive her. Let's just move past this. I don't want any fighting in this house. And that was when I understood. My son would not protect me. He had chosen a false sense of peace over justice. He had chosen to appease his wife over defending his mother. I stood up from the table. The pork chops and grits had gone cold. No one had taken a bite. You're right, I said with a calmness I didn't feel. I don't want fights either. Have a good day. I went to my room, locked the door, and for the first time in a very long time, I cried, but not from sadness, from rage, because I had just discovered that in my own home, the one I built with my hands and paid for with my blood and sweat, I was valued less than the comfort of a manipulative daughter-in-law and the cowardice of a blind son. But if I've learned anything in this life, it's that tears eventually dry up in rage. Rage becomes action. I washed my face, opened my nightstand drawer, and took out an old notebook where I kept important contacts. I started making calls because Jasmine and Ethan had just made a grave error. They thought that because I was older, I was weak. They were about to find out that women of my generation didn't survive by being weak. We survived by being smarter than our adversaries. 3 days went by. 3 days where I pretended nothing was wrong. I made breakfast, picked up the kids' toys, and smiled when my grandchildren hugged me. I greeted Jasmine politely as she passed, as if I were just another piece of furniture. But on the inside, everything was different. Now, I was observing, listening, and making mental notes of every little detail I had once overlooked. On Monday evening, Jasmine went out with her friends. She returned at 11 p.m., smelling of cigarettes and a pricey perfume I didn't recognize. Ethan was already asleep. He didn't ask her a single question when she got in. On Tuesday, while tidying their room, yes, I was still doing it, even as every part of me screamed to stop, I discovered a receipt from an Italian restaurant. $150 dinner for two. The date was last Wednesday, the same day Jasmine had told me she was running errands at the bank. I said nothing. I just folded the receipt and tucked it into my apron pocket. Wednesday was the night it all came to a head. It was nearly midnight. I couldn't sleep. Lately, my sleep had been worse than ever, filled with tossing and turning as I replayed everything that had happened. I went downstairs to the kitchen for a glass of water with lemon, my go-to remedy for calming my nerves. The house was dark and silent. All I could hear was the low hum of the refrigerator and a distant dog barking. I poured my water and squeezed half a lemon into it. I was just about to head back upstairs when I heard Jasmine's voice. It was coming from the backyard. She was on the phone. I froze near the kitchen door, hidden in the shadows with my glass in hand. "No, Mom, not yet," Jasmine said, her voice quiet but distinct. "I told you this will take some time." A pause. I could hear someone on the other end. I know, but I can't just force the issue. The old woman is more stubborn than we anticipated." My heart began to pound. "Look, let me explain it again," Jasmine went on, her tone impatient. "The moment she passes, this house will automatically go to Ethan. He's her only son, and what belongs to Ethan belongs to me. That's how inheritance law works." I felt the ground shift beneath me. The lawyer told me that since we've lived here for 5 years, we have residency rights. We can argue that we've contributed to the property's upkeep. Besides, she's old. How much longer can she have? 10 years? 5? She spoke about my death as if she were discussing the weather. "No, Ethan is clueless," Jasmine said with a dry laugh. "And he can't find out. You know how sentimental he gets about his dear old mommy. If I tell him the house is going to be ours, he'll get all emotional and start talking about how his mother deserves respect and all that nonsense." I had to cover my mouth to stifle the scream building in my throat. "Of course I respect her, Mom, but we need to be practical. This house is worth at least $450,000. Do you realize what we could do with that kind of money? Sell it, buy a bigger place in a better area, and invest the rest. 450, my home, my life, my sacrifice, all reduced to a figure in this woman's calculations. Look, I already met with the lawyer last week." He laid it all out. "Since the house is only in her name and there's no official will, it goes directly to the sole heir, which is Ethan. End of story. He doesn't even have to do anything. It's automatic." I heard the flick of a lighter. Jasmine was smoking, a habit she always denied when Ethan asked. The only issue would be if she creates a will and leaves the house to someone else. But who? She has no one else. And I highly doubt someone her age is even thinking about that stuff. Old ladies from her time don't deal with notaries and paperwork. They live in the past. The rage rose in my chest like molten lava. Besides, even if she did make a will, I checked. Heirs can still claim their share. Ethan will always have a right to something, so we win either way. Another pause. I heard her take a long drag from the cigarette. The video? Oh, Mom, that was different. That was for my followers, for the engagement. You know the game. More drama means more views. And yeah, the old lady was mad, but she'll get over it. What is she going to do, kick us out? She doesn't have the nerve. You saw how dramatic she got, but in the end, and she went right back to cooking and cleaning as always. That's when the pain inside me stopped, and something else started to burn. "Don't you worry," Jasmine said with a sickening confidence. "Everything is under control. I'll make sure to keep her happy and feeling useful. As long as she thinks we're one big happy family, she won't make any sudden moves. And when the day comes, well, we've got it made. The house is ours." She ended the call. I heard her footsteps coming toward the house. I moved quickly, ascending the stairs as quietly as possible, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would burst. I slipped into my room, locked the door, and leaned against it, my legs weak. The glass of water was still in my hand. I placed it on the nightstand so gently it didn't make a sound. And then I noticed something. I had left my phone in the pocket of my robe. And without even thinking, perhaps by instinct, or perhaps by divine guidance, I had hit the record button when I heard Jasmine's first sentence. With trembling hands, I took out the phone. The audio file had captured everything. Every word, every scheme, every lie. 8 minutes and 43 seconds of pure, undeniable evidence. I sat on my bed and listened to the entire recording to ensure it was clear. Jasmine's voice was unmistakable. Her words were damning. When it was over, I stared at the phone screen, and for the first time in days, I smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile, but the smile of a woman who had just been dealt a winning hand in a game she thought she had lost. Because Jasmine was right about one thing. Women of my generation don't often consult lawyers. Except when we do. I glanced at the clock. 1 a.m. Too late to call, but not too late to strategize. I opened the notepad with my important numbers. I flipped through the pages until I found what I was looking for. Azure Williams, my sister friend of 30 years. She was a retired real estate lawyer who had stepped down 5 years ago, but still had more legal savvy in her little finger than any young attorney. And below that, another number. Leo Jakes, my nephew, the son of my brother Jerry, who passed away 10 years ago. He specialized in family law and probate. A good man who visited me monthly, and always said, "Auntie, if you ever need anything, just call me." I had never needed anything. Until now. I hid the phone under my pillow like a precious gem, because that's what it was. My ammunition. I lay down. But sleep was out of the question. My mind was racing, formulating plans, calculating my moves, thinking 3 steps ahead. Jasmine believed she was clever. Jasmine believed I was a naive old woman she could use until the day I died. Jasmine had no idea who she was dealing with. I had survived my husband's death. I had raised a son on my own. I had built a home with my bare hands. I had worked 20-hour days for years. And she thought she could defeat me with cheap deception and a half-baked plan? Poor thing. She had no clue what kind of storm she had just unleashed. The next morning, I went down to make breakfast, as usual. I cooked eggs and beans, poured coffee, and greeted them with a smile. Jasmine looked at me with that air of superiority I now recognized perfectly. "Morning, mother-in-law," she said with fake sweetness. "Morning, dear," I replied. And as I served her plate, as I watched Ethan read the newspaper without paying attention to me, as I listened to my grandchildren fight over the TV remote, I thought of only one thing. Enjoy these days because your world is about to crumble, and this time there won't be a TikTok video to save it. On Thursday at 10 a.m., while Jasmine was at the gym and Ethan was at work, I left the house with my most discreet handbag and the cell phone tucked safely into my pocket. I told the children I was going to the market. Kyla barely looked up from her tablet. Sam was watching cartoons. I took a taxi, an expense I normally avoid, but this was urgent. I gave the driver the address of the firm where Azure used to work before she retired. She now lived in a small condo near downtown, in a building from the 1970s, with mustard-colored walls and plants on every balcony. I rang the bell. I heard hurried footsteps. "Who is it?" Azure's voice asked over the intercom. "It's me, sister friend, Ruthie May." A brief silence, then the buzz of the door opening. I climbed the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was always broken. Azure met me at her apartment door, her white hair pulled back in a bun, and her glasses hanging from a chain over her knitted burgundy sweater. "Ruthie May," she said, looking at me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. By the look on your face, this isn't a social visit. I stepped inside. The apartment smelled of freshly brewed coffee and the cinnamon candles Azure always loved. We sat in her small, cozy living room filled with books and family photos. "Tell me everything," she said without preamble, as she poured me a cup of coffee into delicate china. And I told her everything. The video, the humiliation, the conversation I overheard. Jasmine's plan to take my house. When I finished, I took out my phone and played the audio for her. Azure listened without interrupting. Her expression went from neutral to annoyed, then to downright furious. When the audio ended, she took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "That wretch," she said, her voice flat. Azure never curses. The fact that she did now told me how serious the situation was. "Does Ethan know anything about this?" "Nothing. According to Jasmine, he's completely clueless." Typical. Azure took a long sip of her coffee. Sons are always the last to see what their wives truly are. "So, what do you want to do, sister friend?" "I want to protect my house. I want them to learn a lesson. And I want Ethan to open his eyes." Azure nodded slowly, thinking. "First things. First, your house is in your name, correct?" "Yes, only in my name. I don't know why, but something stopped me from putting it in Ethan's name. That something is called instinct, and it saved you," Azure said, putting her glasses back on. "Second, do you have a will?" I shook my head. "Then Jasmine is right about one thing. If you die without a will, the house automatically passes to Ethan as the forced heir. But that can be fixed. You need to create a will and you need to talk to my nephew, Leo." "I thought the same thing. I have his number." "Call him now. I'm going to text him too. That boy is good, and he's discreet." I dialed the number while Azure sent a WhatsApp message. Leo answered on the third ring. "Aunt Ruthie May, everything okay?" His voice was warm, concerned. Leo was 38. He was an only child, and after his father, my brother Jerry, died of a heart attack, I had helped him with college expenses. He had never charged me, but he always told me he owed me everything. "Leo, I need to see you. It's urgent and it's legal." There was a pause. "Where are you?" "With your Aunt Azure." "I'm leaving a hearing in 20 minutes. I'll be there in 40. Don't move." He hung up. Azure smiled. "That boy is one of the good ones, just like his daddy." We spent the next 30 minutes drinking coffee and planning. Azure, with her legal mind sharp even after retirement, explained my options. You can make a will where you leave the house to whomever you want. Ethan, a foundation, a church, me, if you like. It's your property. I don't want to disinherit my son. He's a victim of her. I know that too. But you can set conditions. You can create a trust. You can divide the property. There are many legal options that protect your interests and teach that snake a lesson without leaving your son homeless. "And the video! Can I do anything about that?" Azure twisted her mouth. "Legally, it's complicated. You didn't sign any consent to appear in the video, but since it was filmed in your own house and she lives there, it's a gray area. You could ask for it to be taken down for unauthorized use of your image, but it would be a long process. I don't want long processes. I want quick justice." "Then let's go for what really hurts, the assets. You take away what she truly wants and destroy her without even stepping into a courtroom." I smiled. That's why Azure had been the best real estate attorney in the area. There was a knock on the door. Leo had arrived. I saw him through the peephole, tall, strongly built, with a neatly trimmed beard and a dark gray suit. He was carrying a leather briefcase. Azure opened the door. "Auntie," Leo greeted, kissing her cheek. Then he turned to me. "Aunt Ruthie May." He hugged me. A real hug. The kind that reminds you you're not alone in the world. The three of us sat around the coffee table. Leo took out a notepad and a pen. "Tell me everything." And I did. For the second time that morning, I narrated the entire story. I showed him the audio. Leo listened with an increasingly serious expression. When the audio finished, he closed his notepad and leaned back against the couch. "Auntie, that woman is not just manipulative. She's dangerous. And what she's saying is technically correct from a legal point of view, but ethically, it's trash. Can I do something?" "You can do a lot, and we're going to do it." Leo opened his briefcase and took out several documents. Option 1, a public will. You establish who inherits what under what conditions. It's ironclad if done correctly. Can I set conditions? Of course. You could say Ethan inherits the house only if he gets divorced. You could say the house is sold and the money is split among your grandchildren. You can create a trust where you maintain control until your death, and then it passes to whomever you designate. The options are many. I don't want to punish Ethan. I want to protect myself from her. Leo nodded. Then I suggest this. You create a living trust. You are the grantor and the lifetime beneficiary. That means the house remains yours and only yours while you live. No one can claim it, sell it, or do anything with it. When you die, you designate heirs with whatever conditions you want. Jasmine couldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The trust is completely protected. Even if Ethan inherited later, it would come in as his separate property, not communal. She wouldn't have any right to it. I felt a weight lift from me. How long does that take? If we start today, it'll be ready in 1 week. I need you to bring me the house deed, your official ID, and you'll come with me to the attorney's office next Tuesday. I'll take care of preparing everything. Is there anything else? I asked, taking a deep breath. I want them out of my house. Leo and Azure exchanged looks. Evict them? Leo asked. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't want to keep living with someone who's waiting for me to die so she can take what is mine. Legally, you can. It's your house. They don't have a lease agreement. They live there by your goodwill, and you can withdraw that goodwill whenever you want. It's that simple. But, Auntie, Leo looked at me with concern. Ethan is your son. This is going to break up the family. Are you sure? I stayed silent for a long moment. I thought about the cold pork chops, the mocking laughter, the viral video, the plan to steal my house, the blindness of my son. The family is already broken, Leo. I'm just making visible what they destroyed in secret. Azure squeezed my hand. Then we'll do this right, Leo said. And we'll do it legally. I'll help you every step of the way. We left 2 hours later with a clear plan. On Tuesday, we would go to the attorney to drop the trust. On Wednesday, Leo would help me do a legal inventory of everything that was mine in the house. And on Saturday, the day they would be away, we would execute the master plan. I took a taxi home. It was 3 in the afternoon. Jasmine was in the living room painting her nails while watching a show on TV. She didn't even look up when I came in. Did you buy vegetables? She asked without taking her eyes off the screen. I forgot, I lied. I'll go tomorrow. Oh, mother-in-law, how scatterbrained. Well, we'll have to order pizza then. I looked at her there, so comfortable in my armchair, using my electricity, breathing my air, planning to steal my life, and I smiled. Yes, dear. Order pizza. I went up to my room, locked the documents Leo had given me in a drawer, and dialed one more number on my cell phone. Hello, Cousin Marcia. It's Ruthie May. I need a favor, and it has to do with social media. Marcia, my second cousin, was 50 years old and had over 200,000 followers on TikTok. She was famous for her traditional cooking videos. But she also knew how the algorithm worked, how to make something go viral, how to tell a story that hits you right in the heart. "Tell me everything," she said with that energy that always characterized her. And I told her. When I finished, Marcia let out a long whistle. "Cousin, that girl messed with the wrong person. When you're ready for your revenge, you let me know. I'll make sure half of America hears about it." I hung up. Everything was in place. The chess pieces set. The plan drawn. Now all that was left was to wait for the exact moment to move the queen and destroy the enemy's king. The weekend brought an unexpected opportunity. Jasmine entered the kitchen on Friday night, phone in hand, flashing that spoiled brat smile she used when she wanted something. "Mother-in-law," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "Guess what? We won a weekend trip to the Grand Cypress Resort. It was a work raffle, all expenses paid. Hotel, food, spa treatments. We're leaving early tomorrow and coming back late on Monday." My heart leaped, but I kept my expression neutral. "That's fantastic, dear. You both deserve it. You've been working so hard." Ethan appeared behind her, holding a suitcase. "Mom, are you sure you'll be all right? It's for 3 days. It's 3 days, son, not 3 years. I'm 68, not 88. I can manage." "But the kids," he started to say. "The kids are staying with me. Or did you plan on taking them to the spa?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Jasmine and Ethan exchanged a look of discomfort. "Well, we thought," Jasmine bit her lip, "that they could come along. There's a children's pool. Or they can stay here with Grandma and have a blast. We'll bake cookies, watch movies, and go to the park." I looked at Kyla and Sam, who had just run into the room. "What would you two rather do? A boring spa with your parents? Or a fun weekend with Grandma?" "With Grandma," they both yelled in unison. "Case closed." I saw the annoyance flash in Jasmine's eyes, but she held her tongue. Ethan looked relieved to be free of childcare duties for their romantic escape. They left at 7 a.m. on Saturday. I waved to them from the doorway with hugs and kisses. Jasmine gave me a half-hearted hug that meant nothing. "Take care, mother-in-law, and keep a close eye on the kids." "As I always do," I replied with my most dutiful grandmother smile. Ethan kissed my forehead. "Thanks, Mom. You're the best." I watched them get into their car, saw them drive down the street, and watched them turn the corner and vanish. I shut the door, took a deep breath, and grabbed my phone. "Leo, they're gone." "Perfect. I'll be there in 30 minutes with the truck." I went upstairs to wake the kids, giving them a quick breakfast of cereal and bananas. "Grandma, are we going to the park?" Sam asked, his mouth full. "Later, sweetie. Grandma has some errands to run first. In the meantime, want to watch movies on my tablet." Their eyes lit up. I rarely let them have screen time in the morning, so this was a major treat. I set them up in the living room with blankets and my tablet loaded with their favorite cartoons, along with cookies and juice. They'd be occupied for at least 2 hours. At 8:30, Leo arrived. He wasn't by himself. He came with a small moving truck and 2 burly men in blue uniforms. "Auntie," Leo greeted as he got out of his SUV. "Meet Roberto and Chewy. They're reliable guys, friends of a friend. Discreet and efficient." The men tipped their caps respectfully. "Morning, ma'am. Where do we begin?" I swung the front door open. "The master bedroom? Everything in there is theirs. Clothes, furniture, all their personal items. Everything goes." Leo pulled out a notepad. "Let's do this by the book. I'm going to document every single item we remove. Photos, too, just in case they try to claim theft. We'll have proof we only took what belonged to them." For the next 3 hours, those 2 men worked with the efficiency of an organized ant colony. They hauled out the modern dresser Jasmine had bought, the king-sized bed they brought when they married because mine was too old, the vanity with its LED mirror, the floating shelves, and the 50-inch TV Ethan had mounted. Every one of Jasmine's shoe boxes, every one of Ethan's suits, Every dress, tie, perfume, and face cream. Everything. Leo photographed each item before it was taken downstairs while I checked off a list. The bookshelf? I said, pointing to the dark wood unit by the window. Are you sure? It's nice, Leo commented. They bought it last year. My old pine one is in the shed because they put this one in. It goes. The men took it apart and carried it out piece by piece. When they were done with the master bedroom, it looked like an empty motel room. All that remained were the light blue walls I had chosen 15 years ago, and the hardwood floor I had paid for. Now the bathroom, I instructed. Everything out. Jasmine's pricey products, some over $35 each. Ethan's electric toothbrush, the new towels they bought last year, their laundry hamper, even their bath mat. I left only my old towels and a simple bar of soap. Living room? Roberto asked, wiping sweat from his brow. I surveyed the space. The gray sectional couch dominated the room. They had bought it 2 years ago when my navy blue one didn't fit their aesthetic. Out. The television is theirs too. Mine was smaller, and they moved it to their room. They carried out the sofa, the glass coffee table, the 60-inch television, the sound system, and even the modern potted plants Jasmine had arranged to liven up the space. I retrieved my old navy blue armchair from the shed. It was a bit faded but clean and comfortable. We placed it back in its rightful spot. My 32-inch TV returned to the living room, and my mother's carved wooden coffee table reclaimed its place. The house was beginning to feel like my own again. The kitchen? Chewie asked. Take out the Italian espresso machine Jasmine brought, the set of non-stick cookware they bought, the new blender, and the microwave they installed. Everything that wasn't here before they moved in. We even emptied the china cabinet. This set of minimalist white dishes is theirs, I said, pointing to the square plates I detested. Take the whole set. My floral plates are in storage. Leo looked at me with something approaching awe. Auntie, you are merciless. I am fair. I'm keeping what's mine, and they're taking what's theirs. What's the issue? He just smiled. By noon, the truck was packed. Where to? Roberto asked. The storage unit on Maplewood Avenue, Leo directed, handing him a paper with the address. It's rented and paid for 1 month. Here's the key. I gave him the key I had acquired on Thursday. A 60-foot unit, plenty of space for all their belongings. The men drove off with the truck, but Leo stayed behind. Now for the fun part, he said, pulling a small toolbox from his SUV. He changed the lock on the front door. The old silver one that had been there for 15 years was replaced with a new, gold-plated steel one. Here, he said, giving me 3 new keys. 1 for you, 1 for a spare, and 1 just in case. Is this all legal? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Perfectly. It's your house. You can change the locks whenever you please. They have no tenant rights since they don't pay rent. Legally, they are guests whose invitation has been revoked. I pocketed the keys. The house felt different. Emptier. But more like my own. As if it had regained its soul. I cleaned everything. Sweeping, mopping, and dusting. Arranging my old furniture back in its original places. I took out the photos I had put away. Of Richard, of a young Ethan, of my parents, and hung them back on the walls. I laid my mother's hand-embroidered tablecloths on the dining table. I watered the plants in the yard, and when I was done, I sat in my navy blue armchair in my living room, in my house, and sipped a cup of coffee from my favorite mug, the one with the little flowers that Jasmine had banished for being old-fashioned. The kids were still absorbed in their cartoons, completely unaware. Leo sat beside me. How are you feeling about all this? I considered the question. I searched for any hint of guilt, regret, or doubt. I found nothing but tranquility. I feel free, I said. Finally. He nodded. They'll be back on Monday. Are you prepared for that? More than prepared. It's going to get ugly, Auntie. I know, but the ugly part already happened. When they made me into a meme. When they plotted to steal from me. When my own son laughed at me. That was the ugly part. This is justice. Leo stood up. I'll be here on Monday. Just tell me what time. You won't face this alone. Thank you, nephew. After he left, I made my grandchildren's favorite meal. Homemade chicken fingers, French fries, and colorful Jell-O. We ate in the backyard, sitting on the concrete bench under the lemon tree. Grandma, why did they take all the stuff out of the house? Kyla asked suddenly. My 9-year-old granddaughter was far more observant than anyone gave her credit for. I was just doing some tidying, sweetheart. Sometimes you have to remove what isn't working anymore, to make room for better things. Mom and Dad are going to be mad. I looked into her eyes, the same light brown eyes she inherited from Ethan. Maybe, but sometimes grown-ups have to do hard things so everyone can learn. Do you understand? She nodded, though I knew she didn't fully grasp it. The rest of the weekend was surprisingly peaceful. We played games, watched movies, and baked chocolate chip cookies. I read them stories at bedtime in my own bed. All 3 of us squeezed together, but happy. On Sunday night after the kids were asleep, I sat in the darkened living room. They would be back tomorrow. They would see what I had done. Tomorrow everything would change. I took out my phone and sent a text to Leo. Be here at 5 p.m. They should be home by then. His response was immediate. I'll be there, Auntie, with all the legal support you need. I put the phone down. I looked around my home, my true home, the one I had built and defended, the one no one was ever going to take from me again. And I waited, because a storm was about to hit. And this time, I was the lightning. On Monday at 4:30 p.m., I heard their car pull up. I was seated in my navy blue armchair, my hands folded in my lap, my posture straight. I had brewed a full pot of coffee, anticipating a long evening. The children were in the backyard with their toys. I had instructed them to stay there until I called. I heard car doors shut, followed by voices and laughter. They were in high spirits after their trip. Footsteps approached the door. Then the sound of a key in the lock, turning but failing to open. Silence. The key turned again. An attempt. Then resistance. What's wrong? It's not opening, came Ethan's confused voice. Try again, Jasmine said impatiently. More attempts, more metallic clicks of frustration. Is it jammed? Ethan sounded concerned. I rose from my armchair and smoothed down my dress. I was wearing my favorite, a beige dress with embroidered flowers, reserved for important occasions. I walked to the door. I could hear them wrestling with the lock. I opened it. Ethan stood there, key in hand, sweating. Jasmine was behind him, looking irritated, holding her expensive beach tote. Mom, thank God you're here. The lock is stuck. We can't. Ethan started. It's not stuck. I cut in, my voice calm. I changed it. A profound silence fell. They both stared at me as if I had spoken in a foreign tongue. What do you mean you changed it? Jasmine asked with a nervous laugh. Why would you do that? Because it's my house and I decided to change the locks. Mom, what is going on? Ethan dropped his suitcase, his face a mask of genuine confusion. Come inside, I said, stepping back. But please leave your luggage outside. What? It's hot. Jasmine tried to push past me with her bag. I said, leave it outside. I repeated, more firmly this time. Something in my tone made them comply. They left their suitcases on the porch and stepped inside. And that's when they saw it. Jasmine was the first to notice. Her eyes darted around the living room, as if it were an alien place. Where is my furniture? She demanded, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. Where is the sectional? The TV, what did you do? Ethan looked around, his jaw slack. Mom, where is everything? It's in a storage unit, I replied calmly, reseating myself in my armchair. On Maplewood Avenue. Your things are there waiting for you. Our things? Jasmine's voice climbed 3 octaves. What did you do with our things? I moved them to a secure location. Everything you brought into this house has been packed and stored. Nothing is lost. It's all been inventoried. Jasmine bolted for the stairs. I heard her taking them 2 at a time, followed by a scream from upstairs. Ethan, get up here. Everything? She took everything. My clothes, my shoes, my vanity, the bed. Footsteps pounded, doors flew open and slammed shut. The bathroom, too. My creams, everything. More footsteps, this time coming down. Jasmine was first, her face flushed with fury. Ethan followed, pale as a ghost. Are you out of your mind? Jasmine yelled, standing over me. This is theft. I'm calling the police. You're going to jail. Go ahead, call them, I said, unruffled. I have the deed to this house. I have a complete list of everything I removed. I have photos of it all, and I have witnesses. I didn't touch a single thing that wasn't yours. We live here. You can't just throw us out like this. I'm not throwing you out. Your belongings are in a safe place. You are welcome to stay, but you'll sleep in the rooms I assign, with the furniture I provide, and under the rules I set. Mom, I don't get it. Ethan finally spoke, his voice trembling. What is all this? Why? What did we do? I looked at him, my son, my only child. I felt a pang of pain, but I didn't waver. Ethan, sit down. You too, Jasmine. It's time we discuss the truth. I am not sitting down. I want my things back right now, Jasmine shrieked. I pulled my phone from my dress pocket. Before you continue shouting, there's something you should listen to. I don't care. Jasmine started. I pressed play. Jasmine's voice filled the room. No, Mom, not yet. I told you this will take some time. I know, but I can't just force the issue. The old woman is more stubborn than we anticipated. I watched the color drain from Jasmine's face. I let the recording play. Every word, every scheme, every lie. The moment she passes, this house will automatically go to Ethan. The lawyer told me that since we've lived here for 5 years, we have possession rights. This house is easily worth 450,000. Ethan collapsed into an armchair, his expression shifting from confusion to pure horror. No, Ethan is clueless. You know how sentimental he gets about his dear old mommy. My son looked at me, tears welling in his eyes. The audio continued until the very last toxic word. When it finished, the silence was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. That was... Jasmine stammered, her voice breaking. Taken out of context. A joke. A lie. I finished for her. No, Jasmine. That was last Wednesday at 11:30 p.m. in my backyard. Speaking with your mother. Planning how to get your hands on my house. I don't... She fumbled for words, for excuses, for anything. You lied. You manipulated. And worst of all, you lied to my son. You used him as a stepping stone to get something that was never yours. Ethan had his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Ethan, I can explain. Jasmine pleaded, trying to approach him. Don't touch me, he yelled, pushing her away. It was the first time in 5 years I'd ever seen him raise his voice to her. Is everything she said true? Is it? Honey, you have to understand. I just wanted to secure our future, the kids' future. Answer me. Is it true or not? Jasmine opened her mouth, then closed it. In that silence, Ethan found his answer. He stood up, stumbled slightly, and looked at me, his eyes full of tears. Mom, I didn't know. I swear to God I had no idea about any of this. I know, I said softly. That's why I didn't pack your things, too. He let out a sob, a sound that broke my heart but didn't change my resolve. What do you want us to do? He asked, his voice cracking. Just then, there was a knock on the door. That must be my lawyer, I said, rising. He's right on time. I opened the door. Leo entered with his briefcase, impeccably dressed in a dark suit. Good afternoon. I'm Mr. Leo Jakes, legal counsel for Mrs. Ruthie Mae Jakes. You must be Ethan Jakes and Jasmine Williams. They both nodded, still in a state of shock. Excellent. I'm here to deliver some documents and clarify the legal situation. Leo opened his briefcase and produced several papers. First, this is a copy of the Irrevocable Living Trust that Mrs. Jakes established last week. The house is now held in an irrevocable trust, with her as the grantor and lifetime beneficiary. This means that no one, absolutely no one, can claim any rights to this property while she is alive. He handed a copy to each of them. Second, here is a complete inventory of the assets that were removed from the property. As you will see, Only items you brought after moving in were taken. Nothing belonging to Mrs. Jakes was touched. Third, Leo continued, his voice professional but firm. Here is the address and key to the storage unit where your possessions are located. You have 30 days to retrieve them. After that period, Mrs. Jakes is not liable for what happens to them. Jasmine stared at the papers as if they were written in a foreign language. And fourth, Leo looked at me before proceeding. Mrs. Jakes is fully within her rights to ask you to vacate the premises at any time. As there is no lease agreement and your residency has been at the owner's discretion. However, I said, looking at all of them, I'm not going to kick you out. Ethan, you are my son. You will always be my son. But things are going to change. If you wish to stay, there will be rules. Jasmine, I looked her directly in the eye. You can stay as well, but under certain conditions. Or you can both leave. The choice is yours. What conditions? Ethan asked, wiping his tears. First, you will pay rent. $500 a month to live in my house. But Mom, second, you will all contribute to the housework. Not just me. We will create a schedule together. Third, you will show absolute respect for me, for this house, and for what I have built. No more videos, no more mockery, no more secret plots, or you're out. Jasmine opened her mouth to protest. And fourth, I continued, not letting her interrupt. Jasmine, you will delete that video right now, in front of me, and you will post a genuine apology. Or the deal is off. And if I refuse? Jasmine asked with the last shred of pride she could muster. Then your husband and children stay, and you leave. The choice is yours. The silence that followed felt endless. Ethan looked at Jasmine. Jasmine looked at Ethan. They both looked at the legal documents in their hands, and Jasmine, for the first time since I had met her, finally broke. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm so sorry. I didn't know if she was truly remorseful or just out of options. But frankly, in that moment, I no longer cared. I had my house back. I had my dignity back. And I had my son back from the grip of a lie. The rest would come in time. No one spoke for what seemed like an eternity, but was only a few minutes. Jasmine remained standing in the middle of the living room, legal papers clutched in her trembling hands. Ethan sat in the armchair with his head down, breathing as if he'd just finished a race. Leo broke the silence. I'll give you a moment to process. I'll be outside if you need me, Auntie. He gave my shoulder a squeeze before leaving, closing the door quietly. Jasmine spoke first. You can't do this, she said, but her voice lacked its usual force. It was hollow, defeated. We are your family. Family doesn't plot to steal from you. Family doesn't humiliate you online. Family doesn't wait for you to die to claim what's yours. I answered without raising my voice. I never said I wanted you to die. She tried to argue. How much longer can she have? 10 years? 5? I quoted her own words back to her. Just refreshing your memory. Jasmine closed her eyes. A single tear traced a path down her cheek, though I couldn't tell if it was real or for show. Ethan shot up from his chair. I need some air, he said, and walked out to the backyard without looking at either of us. I watched him through the window. He sat on the concrete bench, the very one where I had cried and plotted. He buried his face in his hands. Jasmine took a step toward the door. Leave him be, I told her. For once in your life, let him think for himself without you manipulating the situation. She froze. She looked at me with an expression that could have been hatred or fear. Maybe it was both. What do you want from me? She finally asked. To humiliate me? To destroy my life? You've won. Isn't that enough? I don't want to humiliate you, Jasmine. I want you to understand the gravity of what you did. I want you to look at those children playing outside and ask yourself what kind of role model you're being for them. I did everything for them, for their future, to give them a better life. You were teaching them that it's acceptable to steal, to lie, and to use people. It's not stealing if it's an inheritance. It is stealing when you're planning to take something, based on the hope that the owner dies soon. Jasmine opened her mouth to retort, but no words came out, because there was no defense for that. She slid down the wall to the floor, still clutching the papers. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice cracking. "I don't know how to fix any of this." I sat in my armchair facing her, letting the silence hang in the air. "Do you know what the saddest part of all this is?" I said at last. "I loved you, Jasmine. I genuinely did. When Ethan first brought you home, I saw the way you looked at him and thought it was true love. I opened the doors of my home and my life to you. I treated you as my own daughter. And I loved you too," she whispered. "No, you didn't. You didn't want me. You wanted security. You wanted a free place to live. You wanted someone to raise your children while you lived your life. But you never actually wanted me." She shook her head, but with no conviction. "When you posted that video," I went on, "you didn't just embarrass me. You made me invisible. You turned me into a function, an unpaid servant." And people laughed. Thousands of people who don't know me thought I was a burden, a freeloader, a useless old woman. "It was just a video," she started to say. "It was my dignity." My voice rose for the first time. "Do you have any idea how many years I toiled to build this house? How many sleepless nights? How many times I ate beans and rice to save a few dollars? How many times my hands bled, literally and figuratively?" I stood and walked toward her. "I built this with my blood, Jasmine, and you were going to take it as if it were nothing, as if I were nothing, as if my life had no value." She was sobbing now, her makeup smeared, her hair a mess. A far cry from the polished influencer in her videos. The back door opened. Ethan came inside. His eyes were red, but his expression was different, harder, more resolved. "Jasmine, get up," he said, his voice firm. She looked up at him from the floor. "Honey, no, get up. We need to talk outside." Jasmine struggled to her feet. Ethan took her arm, not violently but with a firm grip, and led her out to the patio, closing the door behind them. I remained in the living room. I couldn't hear their words, but I saw their gestures through the glass. Ethan spoke. Jasmine tried to cut in. He held up a hand, silencing her. She cried. He stood his ground. 20 minutes passed. When they came back inside, something between them had shifted. It was visible in the distance they kept, in the way they avoided eye contact. Ethan spoke first. "Mom, we accept your conditions. All of them. No negotiations." Jasmine nodded silently, staring at the floor. "But there's something else you should know." Ethan continued, his voice trembling slightly. "Jasmine and I are separating." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Ethan, don't," I began. "It's not because of you, Mom. It's because of us. Because of what today has brought to light. I thought I knew the woman I married. I thought we had the same values. I thought we were a team. But today, I learned she was hiding secrets, making plans, and saw me as a means to an end." "Ethan, please, we can work through this," Jasmine pleaded, grabbing his arm. "I'll go to therapy. I'll change. Anything." He gently but firmly pulled away. "I need time. I need to think. I need to figure out who you really are, because the woman on that recording is not the woman I thought I knew." "What about the kids?" Jasmine asked desperately. "The children will stay here with me and my mom." Ethan turned to me. "If she'll have us. If not, we'll find another place. But they won't be raised in an environment where things like this are being plotted." "Son." I didn't know what to say. "Mom, forgive me." Ethan dropped to his knees in front of me. My grown son, 33 years old, on his knees. "Forgive me for being so blind, for not defending you, for letting this happen to you in your own home, for laughing at that video, for doubting you when you tried to show me the truth." The tears I had been holding back finally streamed down my face. "I just wanted to give you a happy home," I said, touching his head. "A family. I thought I was doing the right thing by giving you space, by helping, by making myself small, so you could all thrive." You made yourself too small, Mom. So small you almost vanished. And I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. Because it was easier to let you do everything. To let you sacrifice. To let you give up your room, your privacy, your life. Ethan, get up. That's enough. You don't need to say this. He looked at me, his eyes full of tears. Dad died when I was 3. I barely remember him. But you were always there. You worked to exhaustion for me. You paid for my education. You supported my every dream, and I repaid you with indifference, by downplaying your pain, by choosing the comfort of my marriage over your dignity. It's not like that. I tried to console him. Yes, it is. And it stops today. He stood up. Jasmine will go to the storage unit and sort her things. She'll find an apartment. The kids and I will stay here. I will pay the rent you asked for, even though I know it's a fraction of what it should be. I will help around the house, and I will learn to be the son you always deserved. I looked at Jasmine. I expected to see rage or bitterness. All I saw was defeat. When do you want me to be gone? She asked in a flat tone. You can stay in the guest room tonight, I said. Tomorrow you can start looking for a place. You have 1 month to clear your things from the storage unit and get your life in order. The children can see you whenever you want, but you no longer live here. She nodded, not fighting, not manipulating, perhaps because she finally understood she had lost, or perhaps because she never cared enough to truly fight for it. One more thing, Ethan said. The video. Delete it now. Jasmine took out her phone with shaky hands, navigated to her TikTok, found the video, now with over 200,000 likes, and deleted it. Now the apology, I said. Public, sincere, or the deal is off. Jasmine looked at me. There was something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. True remorse, calculation, or just resignation. I'll do it, she finally said. But not today. I need to process all of this first. You have until noon tomorrow, I stated, not backing down. Or the deal is off. She nodded. Ethan went to the backyard to get the children. He brought them inside. Kyla and Sam looked at us, confused, sensing the tension even if they didn't understand why. Kids, Ethan said, kneeling to their level. Mommy is going to live somewhere else for a little while, but she'll see you a lot. You're gonna stay here with Dad and Grandma. Is that okay? Why? Kyla asked with the sharp intuition of a child who knows something is wrong. Because sometimes grown-ups need time to fix things, Ethan replied. But we both love you very much. That will never, ever change. Sam hugged my leg. Grandma is staying with us? Yes, my love. Grandma is staying. Good, he said with the simple logic of a 6-year-old. I like being with Grandma. Those simple words both broke my heart and healed it at the same time. Jasmine said goodbye to her children with long kisses and tight embraces. She wept. They hugged her back, not fully comprehending but feeling her sorrow. Then she went up to the guest room without another word. Ethan made dinner, something simple. Quesadillas with beans. We ate in silence, the 4 of us at my dining table with my tablecloths. After the kids were in bed, Ethan and I sat in the living room. Are you sure about this? I asked him. The separation? It's your family. It's my broken family, Mom. I can't go on pretending everything is fine when the very foundation of my marriage was a lie. The children will be better off in an honest home, even if it's divided, than in one filled with secrets and manipulation. He was right, but it still hurt. I love you, Mom, Ethan said, resting his head on my shoulder like he used to as a boy. And I'm going to prove it to you every single day from now on. I know, son. I know. That night I lay in my bed, the one I had reclaimed from the small room and returned to my master bedroom, and looked up at the ceiling. I had won back my house, but I had lost the illusion of a perfect family. Was it worth it? I looked around the room. My space, my restored dignity. Yes, it was worth every single tear. The The next morning, I was downstairs at 6 a.m. as always. I made coffee and set out some pastries I'd bought the day before. The house smelled different, lighter, as if smoke from a long smoldering fire had finally cleared. Ethan came down at 7, with dark circles under his eyes but looking calmer. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, son. Did you get some sleep?" "A little, but well. And you? Better than I have in months." Jasmine didn't appear until 9. Her hair was in a messy bun, her face bare of makeup, and she wore yesterday's clothes. She looked small and vulnerable. "Morning," she said quietly. No one responded. She poured herself a coffee in silence and sat at the table, a noticeable distance from us. At 11, she was still there, staring at her phone. "It's almost noon," I reminded her. She looked up, her eyes puffy from crying. "I know. Are you going to hold up your end of the bargain?" There was a long pause where I thought she would refuse, get up and walk out without another word, losing even the chance to see her children regularly. But then she nodded. "I need to record something. Can I use the front yard?" Jasmine went outside with her phone and a small tripod she took from her bag. I watched her through the window as she set up the camera, tested angles, and fixed her hair. Even at her lowest, she was still concerned with appearances. But then she began to record, and what she said surprised me. I couldn't hear her from inside, but I saw her face, the tears streaming down, how she wiped her eyes, gestured with her hands, and how her voice cracked. She recorded, stopped, and recorded again. She did this 4 times. When she finally came back in, she showed me her phone. "Before I post it, I want you to see it. So you know I kept my promise." I pressed play. Jasmine appeared on screen. No filters, no makeup, just her, with red-rimmed eyes and a shaky voice. "Hi, everyone. I know many of you saw a video I posted a couple of weeks ago. A video where I made fun of my mother-in-law, where I called her useless, where I said it was her job to take care of my home and my kids." She paused and took a deep breath. "That video was cruel. It was unfair. And it was a lie. My mother-in-law is not useless. She is the most hard-working woman I have ever known. She built the house we live in with her own 2 hands. She paid for every single brick by working double shifts after being widowed with a young child. She raised my husband all by herself, and when we got married, she welcomed us into her home without ever asking for anything." Tears were flowing freely now, and I repaid her with mockery, with public humiliation, and with disrespect. Not just in that video, but in my day-to-day life. I treated her like an employee, like she owed me something. When the truth is, I owe her everything. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. She never had any obligation to help us. Every meal she cooked, every time she watched the kids, every bit of space she gave up was a gift that I took for granted. And that was wrong. I'm making this video because I owe a public apology to her. And to all the mothers-in-law, and grandmothers who are treated as if they're invisible, as if their work has no value, as if their sacrifices don't matter. Her voice broke. "I'm sorry. I am truly deeply sorry. And I understand if you can never forgive me. But I needed you, and everyone else, to know that I was wrong, completely wrong. And to everyone who cheered on that video, who laughed, who left horrible comments about her, please think twice before you mock someone you don't know. Behind that mother-in-law is a story of strength, sacrifice, and love that I failed to see." The video ended. I stared at the blank screen. "Is that enough?" Jasmine asked in a small voice. It wasn't perfect. Parts of it felt rehearsed, but there was something authentic in her breakdown, in her tears. "Post it," I finally said. She nodded, her fingers trembling as she hit the buttons. She added a caption. "The apology I should have given from the very beginning. Publish." The video was now on her profile, live for her 230,000 followers. "Done," she said. "It's up." Ethan, who had been watching from the doorway, nodded. "Now pack your bags. I'll help you look for an apartment this afternoon." Jasmine went upstairs without another word. An hour later, my phone began to buzz. It was my cousin Marcia. Did you see it? Did you see it? See what? Your daughter-in-law's video is going viral. Ruthie Mae, you're all over the internet. I opened TikTok. Jasmine's video already had 50,000 views and was climbing fast. The comments were a torrent. Wow, at least she had the courage to apologize. You don't see that every day? Respect. I wish my daughter-in-law had this kind of humility. Plot twist! The mother-in-law was the hero all along. But there were others. Nice video. But the damage is done. She's only apologizing because she got exposed. These influencers and their fake drama for views. The video hit 100,000 views in 2 hours. Then Marcia called again. Cousin, can I tell your side of the story? People are asking. They want to know what really happened. Your story deserves to be told. I hesitated. I didn't want to be in the spotlight or expose my life any further. But then I thought of all the older women who are treated as invisible, as burdens, as obligations. Do it, I said. But do it respectfully. Don't attack anyone. Just tell the truth. Marcia worked fast. That afternoon, she posted a video. She appeared in her kitchen, wearing her colorful apron, with the warm voice that had made her famous. Hello, family. Today, I'm going to tell you a true story about a woman I've known since I was a little girl, my cousin Ruthie Mae. And she told everything, not the intimate details, not the full names, but the essence of it. A widow who built a home on her own, who raised a son with love and sacrifice, who opened her home to her daughter-in-law, only to be publicly humiliated, who uncovered a plot to steal her assets, and who finally stood up for herself with dignity and justice. This is a story about dignity, Marcia said, looking straight into the camera. About knowing your own worth, about not letting anyone, not even your own family, treat you as if you are disposable. Marcia's video exploded even more than Jasmine's. 1 million views in 6 hours. The comments were an unstoppable flood. I cried. This is my mother's story. My grandmother went through the exact same thing. Thank you for giving her a voice. All mothers-in-law deserve respect. They are mothers, too. We need more stories like this, of women who refuse to back down. But what I didn't see coming was what happened next. Other creators began reacting to the video. TikTokers, Instagrammers, all sharing their own stories of mistreated grandmothers and mothers, of families taking advantage, of older women reclaiming their power. Respect your mother-in-law started trending. Dignity after 60 became a trending topic. My story, without me even seeking it, had sparked a movement. 3 days later, a reporter from a morning news program called The House. Mrs. Jakes, we'd love to interview you. Your story is inspiring thousands. I don't know. I hesitated. You don't have to show your face if you prefer not to. We can film you from behind, distort your voice, whatever you're comfortable with. But your message is changing the conversation across the country. I thought about it for hours. Finally, I agreed. The interview was filmed in my living room. I sat in my navy blue armchair, my back to the camera, but with my voice unaltered, because I decided I had nothing to be ashamed of. The reporter asked me everything. What it was like to build the house alone, how the video made me feel, what led me to take their things out, and what I wanted to say to other women in my position. I want to tell them that they are not alone, I said, looking toward the window where the sunlight streamed in. That their worth isn't defined by what they do for others, but by who they are. That being kind doesn't mean being invisible, and that it is never, ever too late to reclaim your dignity. The interview aired the following Monday and got 3 million views in the first week. My phone was constantly buzzing with messages from distant cousins, neighbors, and old school friends I hadn't seen in 40 years. But the message that hit me the hardest was from a woman I didn't know. Mrs. Jakes, my name is Patricia, and I am 72 years old. I've been living with my son and his wife for 8 years. They treat me just as you described. Invisible. Useful only for cleaning and babysitting. I saw your story and cried all night. But this morning I called a lawyer. I'm gonna take back my house. I'm gonna take back my life. Thank you for showing me that there is still time. Thank you for showing me that grandmothers also have a right to be happy. I saved that message like a treasure. I realized that all the pain, all the humiliation, all the difficult steps had been worth it. Not just for me. It was worth it for all the Patricias in the world. For all the women who once thought their sacrifice made them invisible. For all those who thought it was too late to fight back. Meanwhile, Jasmine had found a small apartment on the north side of town. She moved out with just the essentials. The kids visited her on weekends. She and Ethan started couples counseling, though neither knew if the marriage could be saved. But that wasn't my fight anymore. I had fought mine, and I had won. 2 months later, the house had settled into a new rhythm, one that was more honest and balanced. Ethan got up early to make breakfast 3 times a week. I did it on the other days, but because I wanted to, not because it was my duty. On weekends, we cooked together while the kids set the table. We had a chore chart on a whiteboard in the kitchen. Monday, Ethan cleans bathrooms. I cook. Tuesday, I clean the living room. He cooks. Wednesday, we both cook. The children help tidy their room and so on. The house was no longer a place where one person shouldered the entire load. It was a home where everyone pitched in. On the first of every month, Ethan handed me an envelope with $1,500. I deposited it into a savings account I had opened just for that purpose. "Mom, it's not enough," he had said the first time. "Let me give you more." "No, this is symbolic. It's to remind you that living here is a privilege, not a right, and that privilege comes with responsibility and respect." He had nodded, finally understanding the lesson. The children were thriving in this new dynamic. Kyla had become more talkative, Sam more confident. I taught them how to bake sweet potato pies on Saturdays, how to plant herbs in the garden, and how to appreciate what they had. "Grandma," Kyla asked me one afternoon while we were kneading dough, "why doesn't Mommy live here anymore?" It was the question I had been expecting. I knelt down to her level, my hands still covered in flour. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, my love. And when those mistakes are big, they need time apart to fix them. Your mom made mistakes with me and with our family, and now she's working on being better. But will she come back? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But what I do know is that you and your brother will always be loved by your mom, your dad, and by me. "Do you love us more now that Mommy's gone?" she asked with the brutal honesty of a child. "No, my darling. I loved you just the same before. The difference is that now I have the space to show it without being exhausted all the time." She nodded as if that made perfect sense. Maybe for kids it did. Jasmine still came on Sundays to pick up the children for the park, the movies, or a meal out. She always brought them back by 6 p.m. At first, our interactions were tense. She'd arrive, get the kids, and leave without making eye contact. But over time, something shifted. One Sunday, after 3 months of this routine, Jasmine knocked on the door instead of honking from the car. I opened it. "Mrs. Jakes," she said, her voice different, softer without her usual arrogance. "Can we talk for a minute?" "The kids can wait in the car." I let her in. We sat in the living room, me in my navy blue armchair, she in a wooden chair from the dining set. "I want to thank you," she began, holding up a hand when she saw I was about to speak. "Please let me finish." I nodded. "I want to thank you for not letting me get away with it, for not allowing me to continue being that horrible person I was, for setting boundaries for me when no one else would." Her hands trembled slightly. "I've been in therapy twice a week and I've realized so many things. How I always looked for the easy way out. How I always wanted things handed to me. How I used people without even realizing what I was doing." "Jasmine," I started. "Please let me finish," she repeated. I closed my mouth. "You didn't deserve any of what I put you through. None of it. And the worst part is, for a long time I couldn't see it. I couldn't see my own cruelty, my own manipulation. I had convinced myself I was being smart, strategic and practical, when in reality, I was just selfish and mean. A tear rolled down her cheek. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to be a family again, but I needed you to know that what you did changed my life. It forced me to look at myself in the mirror, and I hated what I saw. And now, I'm trying to become someone different, someone my children can actually be proud of. She stood up. That's all. I just wanted to tell you that. Jasmine, wait, I said before she reached the door. She stopped. Please, sit down. She cautiously returned to the chair. I wasn't perfect either, I said, and I saw her look of surprise. I made myself too small. I gave too much. I let my boundaries blur until they were gone, and that wasn't right either. But you were just being generous. No, I was being a coward. I was afraid that if I set boundaries, my son would leave me. That if I said no, you would stop loving me. So I said yes to everything until there was nothing left of me. I took a deep breath. You took advantage of that, yes, but I allowed it, and that is my share of the responsibility. That doesn't justify. No, it doesn't justify anything, but it does explain how we ended up here, and if we're ever going to heal as a family. Not necessarily like before, but as people who share grandchildren, then we have to be honest about all of it. Jasmine wiped her eyes. Do you think you can ever forgive me? I thought about it. I truly did. I don't know, I answered honestly. Forgiveness is complex. It's not a switch you can just flip. It's a journey. But what I can tell you is that I don't hold any resentment towards you anymore. I am at peace with what happened because it gave me back something I had lost. My dignity. I understand. And one more thing, I added. I've seen how you are with the children these past few months. More present, more attentive. That speaks well of you. It means you're genuinely trying to change. She nodded, unable to speak. Keep doing it. For them and for yourself. Jasmine stood up, came closer, and to my surprise, she hugged me. A brief but sincere embrace. Thank you, she whispered. For everything, even the hard parts. When she left with the children, I stayed in the living room, wondering, had I really forgiven her? Or had I just released the anger? Maybe it was a bit of both. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or pretending it never happened. Maybe it was simply deciding that the pain no longer had control over my life. The evening was settling gently over the backyard. I poured myself a coffee and went out to the patio. I sat on my concrete bench under the lemon tree I had planted 37 years ago. Its branches were heavy with plump, perfect yellow lemons. I reflected on everything that had transpired. The video, the humiliation, the discovery of the plot, the move, the confrontation, the separation, the story going viral. And I realized something. I hadn't just won back my house. I had won back my voice. For decades, I had been silent. I had accepted. I had yielded. I had believed that love meant disappearing. But now I knew better. Loving meant having healthy boundaries. Loving meant respecting yourself as much as you respect others. Loving meant knowing when to fight and when to let go. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Jakes, my name is Elena. I saw your interview 2 months ago. Today I signed the deed to my house, in my name. My son can no longer threaten to kick me out of the home that I bought. Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to reclaim what's yours. God bless you. I smiled. I saved the message along with the hundreds of others I had received in these months. Stories of Patricias and Elenas, of Rosas and Marias, of women who had found strength in my story to write their own. That was my true legacy, not the $450,000 house, but the knowledge that my life had served a purpose greater than just myself. Ethan came out to the patio. Mom, you okay? Yes, son. I'm more than okay. He sat down next to me on the bench. Do you know what day it is? He asked. I thought for a moment. It wasn't a birthday or an anniversary. No, what day is it? It's been exactly 3 months since everything changed. Since you took back your house? Since I got my mother back. He took my hand. These have been the 3 hardest months of my life. The divorce, therapy, realizing who my wife truly was. But they've also been the best, because I got to see you again. The real you. Not the one who made herself small, but the warrior you always were. The one I just didn't know how to see. Ethan, let me finish. I smiled. You sound like Jasmine when you say that. We both laughed. I want you to know I'm proud of you. Not just for what you did, but for how you did it. With dignity, without needlessly destroying, even giving Jasmine a chance to redeem herself. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said. Yes, but not everyone takes it. I think Jasmine is trying. I don't know if our marriage will survive. Honestly, I don't think it will. But at least now we're being honest. And that's better than the comfortable lie we were living. We sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the trees. Mom, I have something for you, Ethan said, pulling an envelope from his pocket. What's this? Open it. Inside was a legal document. I read it carefully. It was a formal waiver from Ethan to any claim on the house. A document stating he recognized the house was mine and mine alone, and that he would not seek to inherit or claim it under any circumstances while I was alive. Ethan, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. I need you to know that I'm staying here because you're allowing me to, not because I have any right. And if you ever decide you want your space back completely, I will respect that without a single question. Tears threatened to fall, but I held them in. You are my son. This house will always be your home, but thank you for understanding. Thank you for teaching me what it really means to be a man. It's not about protecting your own comfort. It's about protecting the people you love, even when it means facing difficult truths. That night, after tucking the kids in, I sat in my bedroom. The master bedroom, my bedroom. With my bed, my vanity, my view of the yard. I took out the old notepad where I had chronicled so much over the years and wrote, Today, I understood that true wealth isn't what you possess, but what you refuse to let be taken from you. Don't let them take your voice, your dignity, your right to take up space in your own life. Because once you get those things back, no house, no money, no comfort can compare to the peace of knowing you are whole. I closed the notepad, switched off the light, and slept deeply, without nightmares, without worries, without fear. Because finally, after 68 years, I had learned the most important lesson of all. You are not old. You are not useless. You are not invisible. You are a woman who built empires with her hands, who loved with her whole heart, who fell but rose again, who was humiliated but not broken, and who, in the end, proved that grandmothers are not made of glass. We are made of steel. If this story resonated with you, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Whether you're going through something similar, know someone who is, or simply felt moved by these words, I want you to remember this. It is never too late to reclaim your dignity. It is never too late to set boundaries. It is never too late to remind yourself and the world who you truly are. No matter your age, how long you've been accommodating, or how many times you've been made to feel invisible, you remain whole, valuable, and powerful. Let me know in the comments where you're watching this story from. Did you relate to what Ruthie Mae went through? I would love to read your story too. And if this story stirred something in you, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Here we share real stories of real women who refuse to be unseen, because our stories matter, our voices matter, and most importantly, we matter. Until the next story, my friends. And remember, grandmothers don't surrender. Grandmothers reclaim. Did you like my story? If you listened all the way to the end, drop a 1 in the comments. If you enjoyed it, you can show your support by liking the video and sending a small tip. I have many other life stories just like this one on my channel, so be sure to subscribe and check them out. I've put 2 new stories on the screen that everyone is loving. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one. With love.